all over her body. Her death originally ruled a homicide, but changed to suicide. Ellen's parents pushing authorities to re-examine the case for years. On Friday, following a court-ordered re-examination, the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office stated Greenberg would be capable of inflicting these injuries herself, noting that there was no sign of a struggle or an intruder, and no defensive wounds. Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Lindsay Simon also noting that Greenberg was a young woman suffering from anxiety and was on a prescription medication, and that there was no trace of her fiancé's or anyone else's DNA on the knife. Ellen's parents outraged.
We wish to know what was going on in my daughter's brain at the time.
The ME's office telling ABC News that they have no further comment. Ellen's parents determined to keep pushing.
I don't know what our future options are, but the one thing, we're not going away and we're not giving up.
Now, mind you, the truth in the Greenberg scenario is somebody on the border. They say they want to change her cause of death so that a proper investigation can take place. Justice. Philadelphia officials declined comment. And for a true deep dive, be sure to watch Death in Pilot 603 What Happened to Ellen Greenberg. It's a riveting watch on Hulu or Hulu on Disney Plus. Diane.
Jack, thank you. Coming up, one of U.S. soccer's all-time greats is retiring. Kristen Press says she's hanging up her boots now, and the other soccer legend that played a role in her decision.
Any pizza, any toppings, just $9.99 online. Domino's Best Deal Ever is back.
When Shakespeare starts to feel a bit complex, and you've got questions upon questions, you can just ask Google to break it all down, and even ask follow-ups, so you can keep up with every twist, turn, and sibling rivalry. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well.
New street corn and queso crunch double chicken burrito bowls. Let's get loco. El Pollo Loco.
The longtime couple announcing earlier this year that they were married.
Your wife retired this year as well. How much did her decision and watching her go through her emotional goodbye factor into your decision? She would absolutely hate me saying this a lot. I think it is time for my family to move on to our next chapter. We're going to be a part of this game forever, but it's time for it to look different for us. And I feel really lucky that I get to leave this game with a family. Kristen will play her final Angel City home game this Sunday. Diane, she says her family is always connected through soccer, so this is going to be a big change for all of them.
All right, Rhiannon and Allie, thank you. And thank you for watching. I'm Diane Macedo. The news never stops, and neither do we. We have a lot more news right after the break. Stay with us.
For a limited time, get any pizza with any toppings for just $9.99 online. Only at Domino's.
Invented. Reinvented. Invented. Reinvented. Invented. Reinvented. The high-quality industrial products you need. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Diane Macedo. Let's get right to our top story. The U.S. Senate is expected to take its 9th vote on whether to fund the government as the shutdown enters its 15th day. Meanwhile, air traffic controllers are warning the stalemate is making air travel more dangerous. Let's bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill and transportation reporter Sam Sweeney for more. Jay, when you look at the impacts of this shutdown, is there a breaking point that could force lawmakers to negotiate?
Well, that's the question we've particularly been posing to Senate Democrats at this hour, because Democrats say that they're digging in here, that they will not vote for any temporary government funding legislation without an extension of Obamacare tax credits that are set to expire at the end of the year. And if they do expire, they would cause premiums for millions of Americans to skyrocket, in some cases to the tune of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And so Democrats, particularly in the Senate, where this funding legislation is stalled, have said they're not going to give their needed votes to that legislation unless Republicans negotiate with them on that issue. Republicans have said they're not going to negotiate while the government is shut down. And we've been playing this game back and forth for 15 days now, Diane. So I asked Mark Kelly, Democratic Senator of Arizona, is there a point where the pain of this shutdown outweighs the fight that he and other Democrats say is necessary right now for health care?
Senator, with every day, the impacts of the shutdown will get worse and worse. Is there a certain amount of
Say is necessary right now for health care? Here's what he told me. Arizona. Shutdown outweighs the fight that he and other Democrats say is necessary right now for health care. Here's what he told me. Senator, with every day, the impacts of the shutdown will get worse and worse. Is there a certain amount of pain that makes this fight for health care not work?
To have, any pain through this, but keep in mind, when people lose their health insurance, some people die. Other people lose their homes. We're trying to prevent that from happening.
So Democrats digging in at this hour saying they believe this is a just fight, but with any government shutdown, and particularly this one, with every passing day, the impacts get worse. And so you won't just see missed paychecks ultimately, although members of the military were paid today because money was moved around in the Pentagon's budget, but you'll start to see food assistance potentially dry up, assistance for mothers and newborns dry up, and the various functions of the government, everything to processing passports, start to grind to a halt.
Sam, the Controllers Union says not only is the shutdown putting a strain on existing controllers, it's also making it harder to train new controllers. How so?
There's an academy in Oklahoma City that where air traffic controllers are trained. It's the very start of their program, which can last 3 to 4 years to train a controller from start to finish. It takes months, sometimes more than a year, to get controllers into this academy. And when you have a government shutdown, normally all of those students have to leave Oklahoma City, go home. And what we've seen in the past is that many of those students do not return. And that is a huge problem for the supply of air traffic controllers being put into the system. As we've reported extensively, there is an extreme shortage across the country. We need every single controller. They've got funding to sustain the academy for the next 30 days. But if this shutdown lasts longer than 30 days, all of those students in Oklahoma City could be forced to go home. And as we've seen in the past, many won't come back. And that is a big problem for all of us.
Jay, the Senate's set to vote again today, but no one seems to be budging. So why keep having these votes if nothing's changed?
Republicans have said that they want to continue to put this temporary government funding legislation on the floor that, if it passed, would fund the government temporarily until mid-November, kick the can down the road, and give both chambers of Congress time to work out the way to fully fund the government, although that's looking difficult at this hour as well because the House isn't even in town. They've been out for 3 weeks because Speaker Johnson sent them home after they already passed that temporary government funding legislation. What John Thune, the top Republican in the Senate, has said is he's going to continue to call up this vote to essentially end this shutdown over and over and over again, try to get Democrats to take what he says are politically difficult votes for them and try to paint Democrats as voting to keep the government shut down. Democrats have hit back, calling for Republicans and calling for President Trump to negotiate with them. There's an emerging line from Democrats at this hour, Diane, where there are Democrats in the Senate who say they want President Trump to personally get involved. They believe, in a way, that he wants to do a deal with them. President Trump has said the opposite. He said he's not going to negotiate while the government is shut down.
Sam, air traffic controllers are not legally allowed to walk off the job as federal employees, but they're also not getting their paychecks right now. So how are they managing expenses?
Well, they just got their last paycheck yesterday. It was a partial paycheck, but the next one won't come if this shutdown doesn't end. And that's why some are afraid that they may get an extra job. They may drive for Uber, or they may not show up for work every single day. And that's what we're going to see.
Sam Sweetie, Jay O'Brien, thank you both. And former special counsel Jack Smith is criticizing the Trump Justice Department. Smith says the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey and dismissal of charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams, quote, reeks of lack of process.
Nothing like what we see now has ever gone on. Process shouldn't be a political issue, right? Like if there's rules in the department about how to bring a case, follow those rules. You can't say, I want this outcome, let me throw the rules out.
Smith is also defending his investigations into President Trump, calling it ludicrous to think politics would have played any part. Justice reporter Luke Barr is here for more on that. So, Luke, in this interview, Jack Smith gave very few, it's one of the first public statements we've heard from him since he investigated President Trump. How significant is it that he's speaking out now?
Well, it certainly is, unprecedented for a special counsel to speak out like this. If you remember, we only heard from Robert Mueller, the former special counsel, in front of Congress one time. We've only heard from Robert Hur, the former special counsel who investigated the Biden classified document handling. Through his report, he didn't give really any on-camera interviews. And Jack Smith, in this interview, really defended the work of his prosecutors. He said that these people that he worked with at the Justice Department that he hired are good people that they want to do the best for the country. That's all they really care about. All they really care about. And Diane, he also talked about the difference between the investigation into President Trump's handling of classified documents and the investigation into President Biden's handling of classified documents. He said the difference is the willfulness there, right? The intent to keep the documents was the difference, and that he believed that it would have made it to all the way to trial. But of course, the president won the election, and Jack Smith resigned. Cases were thrown out.
President Trump and his Attorney General Pam Bondi have accused the Biden administration of weaponizing the Justice Department against President Trump. Could we see charges filed against Jack Smith?
Well, it's unclear if that is the case. It's unclear if he's even being investigated for something. But, you know, the president certainly has made clear that he would like to see some folks indicted, including James Comey, who was indicted, the former FBI director, New York Attorney General Letitia James. He's also suggested California Senator Adam Schiff be investigated, indicted for a crime that he may have committed. Unclear what that is. And of course, you know, John Bolton, who had his house searched by the FBI, unclear what the resolution of those cases are. Diane.
ABC News Justice reporter Luke Barr, thank you. And the Supreme Court is expected to hear arguments in a monumental voting rights case today. The justices will decide whether race can be used in redistricting after a federal court ruled Louisiana's 2022 congressional map violated the Voting Rights Act. The ruling could determine whether several states have to redraw their maps in a race-blind manner. ABC's Perry Russum is in Washington with more on the major impact this could have on the balance of power in Congress. So, Perry, what's at stake here, and how significant is it for the Supreme Court to weigh in on this?
Well, this could fundamentally change the Voting Rights Act, specifically Section 2, which prohibits voting practices or procedures that discriminate on the basis of race, color, or language. So this case is out of Louisiana. It centers around the drawing of a congressional map that creates two new districts with the majority of black voters, alleviate possible violations of the Voting Rights Act. Louisiana got together and sued saying that it violated equal protections. It's a complex case, but at the center of this is Section 2, and Justice Brett Kavanaugh is a key vote in this entire case. We're trying to figure out which way he is going to go, trying to read the tea leaves, but today from the bench, he did say that race-based redistricting cannot last forever.
Perry, for decades, the court has said race can't be a predominant factor in drawing congressional district boundaries, but it has allowed states to consider race to give minority voters equal opportunity in elections. What kind of precedent could this ruling set?
It could fundamentally change the way that congressional maps in this country are drawn, whether race is a factor in this or not. You know, when we decide who goes to Congress, the voters decide. So depending on which district these voters are in, they dictate who goes to Congress. Congress creates the laws in this country. They figure out how this country is run as a whole. But if Section 2 is taken away, one of the lawyers for the NAACP was arguing at the Supreme Court today, said it would be catastrophic, adding that, quote,
how you doing, man?
The country could go into chaos, Diane.
Perry Russum, thank you. And sources tell ABC News Israel is preparing to receive more hostage remains from Hamas. Meanwhile, the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry reports 9 people have been killed in Israeli attacks over the past 24 hours. Foreign correspondent Tom Burridge has the details on all of that. So, Tom, Israel says the Rafah crossing is now closed today.
Well, it's been European officials interestingly under the peace agreement brokered by the US to take charge of the Palestinian side, the Gaza side of that crossing. So it's the main crossing between Egypt and Gaza. Now, at the moment, it hasn't been opened. Is that because it's complex and taking time? Maybe partly, but it's probably, and I'm only speculating on this, it's probably down to the fact that other phases of the deal have not been complied with yet or sorted out. And at the moment, most of the focus seems to be on returning bodies. So Israel has returned, according to the International Committee for the Red Cross, another 45 bodies of dead Palestinians to the authorities in Gaza. We're unsure how all of those individuals died. There are suggestions that some of them might have died in Israeli custody. And then Hamas and its affiliates have now returned 8 bodies in the last 48 hours to Israel. 7 of the 8 have been positively confirmed to be identified as hostages being held during the war. The 8th body, it's not clear their identity, and that is 8 out of 28, so 7 out of 28 really. 21 bodies of hostages are still unaccounted for, unfound, although there is this positive news, as you say, Diane, from Israeli officials saying they are expecting Hamas to return an unknown number of bodies in the coming hours.
Tom, some Palestinian resistance factions are endorsing Hamas's security campaign. What could that mean for the next phase of this agreement?
Well, there are various factions on the ground in Gaza. Palestinian Islamic Jihad, like Hamas, is recognized by the US and many Western countries as being a terrorist organization. So it has its affiliates on the ground in Gaza. There are clans in Gaza as well, powerful families. Hamas we believe, put out a video. We've looked at that video, verified that video. It appears to show an execution of Palestinians by Hamas gunmen accused of colluding with the Israeli officials, Israeli forces during the war. So it's a very complex picture on the ground. The main other Palestinian faction is the Palestinian Authority, which controls the West Bank. Its relationship with Hamas is more contentious and more complicated. And of course, under President Trump's deal, the Palestinian Authority, if it reforms, is supposed to play a crucial role in Gaza. But all of that needs to be worked out. It speaks of the complexity going forward from here.
Tom Sufi-Burridge, thank you. And the UN Humanitarian Office says Israel is threatening to cut the number of aid trucks allowed in Gaza in half. The threat comes after Israeli officials accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire by slowing that release of dead hostages. But it's not clear whether Israel has followed through on that threat. UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram is in Gaza with more on that. Tess, thanks for coming back on. So how much aid is getting into Gaza right now?
We're not yet at the volumes that we want to see under the terms of this ceasefire agreement. We had one day on Sunday, then the crossing was closed, and then today, hopefully the trucks have been moving again, but we're waiting for a readout on just the scale of what came into the Gaza Strip today. But safe to say, we need this consistently. We need hundreds of trucks coming in every day for this foreseeable future, and that needs to happen through all available crossings into the Gaza Strip.
Many released Palestinian prisoners are now describing harsh conditions they say they faced during their detentions and the harsh conditions they've returned to. Here's a clip from one of them. ABC News has asked the Israeli Prison Service and IDF for comment on these claims. We have not received a response yet, but what are you hearing and seeing from other released Palestinians?
The people who have spent time as hostages and as Palestinian prisoners have endured the unthinkable, and we're really relieved that so many are being